Hi, I'm Winston. The local body elections are coming up. So I thought, why don't we just interview some of the candidates to see, why are they running and kind of who they are as people. All this week is going to be the Central Ward candidates, which is the most competitive ward in Christchurch. Today, Monday, is Tom Roud. So enjoy getting to know these candidates. They're not, super hard questions, and they're, about 15 minutes long at the most. And be sure to vote in the local elections because the local elections are so important. Thanks for watching and here's the interview. About yourself, who are you?
Sure. My name's Tom Roud. I'm a library worker and I am running for Christchurch City Council in the Central Ward for the Alliance Party.
Yeah, so why are you running?
Um, I guess I have been fairly political for a while, but haven't chucked my hat in the ring to actually run for anything until now. But what I see at the moment is that Christchurch is at a bit of a crossroads where we get to decide what kind of city we want to be moving forward. And I think, from my point of view, we can be a really good city as long as we're a good city for everybody. And I am interested in stepping into the breach a bit and providing what I'd consider quite an ambitious vision of like what Christchurch should aim to become. So, let's not make the same mistakes of Auckland, but let's also not just be like an overgrown Ashburton. Let's try and be our own thing and do it really well. So that's where I'm coming from, and what's motivated me to run is, a staunchly and rather strident, ambitious, whatever you want to call it, progressive program, I think, overall, in terms of like how we do public spending, what we do with public assets, and yeah, making sure we set up a city that works for working people.
Yeah. So you're running in the Central Ward, which is probably one of the most competitive this election. So why should people pick you?
I think what I like about the Alliance Party, for example, and why I'm running under that is because it provides a set of principles that I think are kind of lacking in New Zealand politics in general. The party's been inactive for about a decade, and I'm the first person running under it for about 11 years, I think. But it's a politics that's not alien to New Zealand. Actually, it's one that we held pretty closely for many decades after the war, up until the mid 80s, and it's a politics that looks to invest properly in our people, properly in our infrastructure, and has a different kind of vision of what kind of society we want to be. I think it's essentially a very Kiwi way of thinking about how we organize things. I think what I can do is bring a bit of new perspective on the one hand, but also like in some ways kind of traditional values, but not conservative traditional values, but traditional in the sense of like um, what is the role of government? It should be to serve the people. And how do you do that? Well, you do spending that people can see improves their lives, and the government, local government, central government, wherever it is, should see that as its aim, that all of its spending is understood to be improving the lives of the population, which through their consent to have government decide these things, they're being served by the spending that's being done and by the projects the government is doing. I think local government can be really dull to a lot of people. We get really low voter turnout and stuff like that. And what I'd really like to say and see is a huge increase in that turnout, because day to day, your life is massively impacted by what local government does and what it does well, and perhaps what it doesn't do so well. Much more so than day to day your interaction with things that are governed by central government, really. For most people, you don't interact with the hospital every single day. It's more of a now and then kind of thing. Whereas if your rubbish is picked up, or if the water coming to your house is safe to drink or anything like that, that's, you notice that pretty quickly. So yeah, I guess for me, it's like injecting a bit of interest into local government, and with a vision that's actually, um, yeah, worth voting for, I suppose, because I think that's one of the big problems with local government, is that so many people don't vote, and I think part of it is that they haven't been given a good reason to. So I like to think I'm trying to give them a good reason to.
Yeah. Yeah, so what is your like hobbies, things you kind of get up to on your day off?
Sure. So I have a couple of greyhounds, so my usual day off involves a bit of walking for sure with the dogs. I play in a band called Model Home, so music is definitely a big thing. I like to attend gigs as well, so I try and do that. Um, Now and then I moonlight as a helping out with pub quizzes and things because family has a bit of interest in a local bar. So I just help out there sometimes. I'm quite into cooking as well when I have time. Yeah, that's it really. A bit of reading, as you can probably guess, as someone who works in a library, but you almost forget about that when you're around books all the time. It's like it's like asking the story about fish. A fish swimming past another fish and says, "Water's fine today," and the other fish agree, and then say, "What's water?" It's like with libraries. You don't think so much about books when you're around them all the time, but yeah, I do a fair bit of reading too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions I had was, what kind of music do you like?
I guess vaguely you could call it emo, but in a more general sense, it's sort of like the alternative indie rock. It tends to be guitar music. So bands primarily with guitars, um, contemplative, if not kind of sad vocals. Sometimes a bit of irony in there though. Um, yeah, I like that. I like punk music as well. I also listen to quite a bit of like Irish music and sea shanties and stuff. That's just yeah, I don't know why. I just got into that at some point, so I spend a bit of time listening to that sort of music. But yeah, a good mix of stuff. Like I do enjoy a bit of hardcore, and more recently I've even started listening to some more ambient electronic music. But that's new for me for sure. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. What is the best thing about Christchurch?
it's a great question. Um, Oh, there are so many things I want to say. I think whenever I travel to another city in New Zealand, I come back to Christchurch and I just really appreciate how crisp and dry it is. I am not not someone who does well with any level of humidity, but I wouldn't say that's the best thing about Christchurch. I think what's the best thing about Christchurch is that of all the cities in New Zealand, it feels like we're on the right track. It feels like we're getting better. That doesn't mean that we're necessarily the best city in every single possible way, but it feels like there's so much potential here, and I think that's really exciting.
Yeah. What do you think the main issue is facing Christchurch, and maybe like your top priorities?
I think in the Vegas sense, like the most zoomed out way we can think about it is affordability, and affordability comes in so many forms. And for me, a big issue that I'm thinking about that council has some ability to influence is around housing. Housing is an enormous part of the costs for everyone who lives in this country, regardless if you're a renter or if you've got a mortgage, if you're in social housing or if you're under a private landlord or anything like that. The cost of living is massive, and the cost of housing is a massive part of that in New Zealand. So I think there's a real the housing question as far as New Zealand goes is one of the biggest ones that deserves an answer. We've got an economy that for 40 years has spent a lot of its capital just trading houses to one another for more and more expense without actually producing any new value. That's a real problem. It means our productivity is quite low. It means just the cost of living for people is really difficult. Councils can't absolutely solve all of that, but the way they invest and the way they do district plans and how much social housing they try and invest in can definitely influence that and try and get it under control. Because I think for me, it's like I would love to see just ordinary working people with a bit more money left over in their back pocket to decide how they want to spend it, decide what they want to do with their lives. That would be a great outcome from my perspective.
Hmm. Yeah. Local politics can be rough, especially hate toward local candidates. Um, how do you deal with that and the effects on your mental health?
Yeah, I think I haven't experienced too much negativity so far. Every now and then I have. I think, but I've been in somewhat in the trenches in terms of like arguing with people about politics for a long time. So I think I'm relatively thick-skinned with that and not too worried when, some people will absolutely have no time for what I'm standing for, and the feeling is probably neutral, and that's okay. Um, of course, there is a level of toxicity that can happen when you step into the public eye. And I think while I can see a little bit of it, if we're being honest, and I think there've been some good articles on this actually, the majority of that hate is definitely directed towards female candidates and the level of vitriol they're facing sometimes. And I think it's really quite appalling what is tolerated or just not even mentioned by some men who are maybe on council or are running for council and just like don't moderate their own comment sections on social media where people are saying some extremely inflammatory and unpleasant things about women who dare to, step into local politics. So, while I see a bit of it and, now and then it can get under your skin a wee bit, yeah, I'm definitely not one of the main people being hammered in that regard.
Hmm. Yeah, and then I guess what is like one interesting fact that people should know about you?
Vaguely interesting. It might not be a massive vote winner because obviously people have views on this. I don't drive and I don't own a car. I basically bike everywhere. Yep.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess the last thing is if you could speak directly to the voters, what would you say?
Get out and vote. Make sure you do vote. Look into the candidates. Council is doing a lot more work to try and make sure you can understand what people are about this year. They're doing some videos where candidates answer stock standard questions to the voters. Um, we need to just increase the turnout for local government. Local government is, somewhat under pressure at the moment, as people may have seen, in terms of its delegated authority being questioned and maybe curtailed by central government. And part of the way was we can protect that, protect the idea that local people should be in charge of more of their own lives, not less, is if we actually show up to vote. If we don't have that high turnout, then that gives central government a lot more say to, a lot more justification to say, oh, we don't need local councils anymore. We can get rid of regional councils. So I would say, yeah, get out there and vote. And if you're in central, vote for me.